Here we are, another exciting adventure with Dr. Autoimmune. Hey, Dr. Ian here. Go all the way down with that. There we go. Hey, how we doing tonight, guys? How is everybody out there? We got TikTok rocking, and of course we got our webinar folks as well. What's going on, everybody? Hey, so again, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Ian, and I practice something called functional medicine. I've been doing that for the past 15 years. This is my passion. This is the reason that I'm here, and I'm called to help people deal with chronic and complex issues. Now, the functional medicine model, if you're not aware of what this is, it's essentially the ability to start to look through your systems instead of just your symptoms. The idea behind functional medicine is to actually start to understand what is the root cause? Why did it start? What can we do about your root causes than what you have been doing? I.e., what are we going to do different today so that tomorrow we have a better outcome? And so the lens that we look into your case really is going to be your things like your genetics. Like we're going to talk about things like methylation defects tonight, right? Good evening. What's up, Mississippi? Right? And so we're going to talk about the environment tonight and how important the environment is. Almost every single autoimmune condition has an environmental component. We're going to talk about triggers. Triggers may be the most important aspect as it relates to autoimmunity. And of course, lastly, we're going to talk about leaky gut. So every single autoimmune condition has those four factors involved with it. It doesn't matter if it's Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, right? Lupus, scleroderma, Sjogren's. All of these conditions are going to have similarity. They have slightly different genetics, slightly different environmental components, different triggers. There's different constellation of symptoms that go with these conditions, but they all will also have this condition called intestinal permeability. So yes, we're going to talk about leaky gut tonight, what leaky gut is. How do we actually start to address this? How can we again start to using our things like diet and supplementation to actually start to push our immune system towards remission? Because here's the story you've been told. You've been told when you went to your doctor, maybe you had a positive ANA, or you had a positive dsDNA, or you had a positive TPO, or positive CCP, right? Or positive ANCA. So all these different kinds of autoimmune, again, there's over 85 known autoimmune conditions that we have. Right? We know that endometriosis now is autoimmune. We are appreciating that there are now more autoimmune conditions coming into play. We know that long haul is autoimmune, right? And so there's a complexity, but it's almost like it's overwhelming. And our providers want us to believe that all you can do for the ill is take the pill. And if that was the case, well, then the couple thousand people that I've worked with would never have been able to achieve remission. But I have seen case after case after case achieve remission. Autoantibodies restoring and returning to normal. People's symptoms becoming absolutely non-existent anymore. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone values, returning back and close to 1.0, right? What's up, Libby? Good to have you here, right? So again, the condition of autoimmunity and the state of how we're managing it is really a disaster. The number one management tool that we have, right, for autoimmunity is to suppress the immune system. Again, when you went to your doctor, if you went to your endocrinologist, your rheumatologist, what they're going to tell you is that if they did diagnose you, they're going to say, well, we're going to try Cellcept. We're going to try Humira. We're going to try Enbrel. We're going to give you prednisone. We're going to give you Plaquenil, right, HCQ. Does this sound familiar to anybody? And then when you say, well, I don't really want to use drugs, well, there's nothing else that we can do. Well, what about diet? Diet has nothing to do with autoimmunity. This is, again, quoting from what I've heard over and over and over again from rheumatologists. Or if you go to endocrinologists, right? It's going to be the exact same thing. All we're going to do is we're going to use Synthroid, a levothyroxine. We're going to use a thyroid medication, which is not even treating your thyroid, because the number one cause of hypothyroidism is Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition. So again, instead of focusing and putting our blinders on, what we're going to do tonight is do a deep dive. And I love this lecture. I love this webinar, because now I can actually really, if I have your attention, I can start to help you guys understand why your immune system has unraveled, what you need to start doing differently, what labs you need to start looking at your health in a critical view, what hormones are absolutely critical, right, to your immune system, and why your hormones are important. Okay, so and then you can start to actually make an educated guess about, not an educated decision about how, again, you're going to start tackling this in a different way. Because if, again, all we're going to do is throw medications at this, essentially you are guaranteed to have an autoimmune disease the rest of your life. Once you have one autoimmune condition, right? So once you have a diagnosis, which usually takes 7 to 9 years, okay, you have a 50% chance of a second autoimmune disease. If you have 2 autoimmune conditions, let's say if you have rheumatoid and you have Hashimoto's, there is a 73% chance that you have a third autoimmune condition already. Okay? What's up, Missouri? Glad to have you here. So again, what are we going to do differently than what we've done before? Well, again, we're going to go through the 4 basic mechanisms of how autoimmune starts. We're going to go through the 4 foundational steps that you need in dealing with any autoimmune condition. We're going to talk about some supplementation, but really we're going to focus on the mechanisms that when we start to understand that, and some of the lab testing that we use in functional medicine to help you start to figure out, oh, this is how I customize my care. This is how I'm doing things different than what I've been doing before. Because that's the whole point of this, is if you can, again, that's right, fix your gut. There's a comment right there, right? Fix your gut. That should be our cheer tonight. Is if we can literally go to where is the immune system, right? Where does the immune system actually come from? We know that, again, 70% of the immune system is in the gastrointestinal tract. So the question is, why aren't gastroenterologists, why aren't they doing tests on every person that comes into their office? Why aren't they aware of the research that shows the molecular mimicry of gastrointestinal infections and human tissue? Again, the reason why we know as much as we know right now about autoimmunity is in large because of some really intelligent researchers. One of those is Alessio Fasano. Okay? So Dr. Alessio Fasano discovered a molecule called zonulin. We're going to talk more about zonulin tonight. That's actually what keeps the cells tight in your gut. And guess what? When he discovered that this zonulin was the molecule that allowed these cells to come apart, he figured out that that was the actual mechanism that drove celiac disease. So celiac disease, of course, comes from when we consume gluten, right? And then it actually triggers and activates zonulin, and that allows that barrier to be breached. But then guess what? He went one step further, and he found that that zonulin molecule is consistent with every other autoimmune condition, whether it's lupus, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis, again, whether it's scleroderma, whether it's Behçet's, with all these different autoimmune issues, right? Vasculitis, Hashimoto's, Graves', they have this in common. Why are your doctors not testing you for leaky gut? Why are they only testing people for celiac disease when there's actually 24 antibodies for gluten sensitivity? And I'll say this now, and I will say this later tonight, but one of the strongest influences on your gut, on your microbiome, is your diet. And so for a doctor to say that your diet has nothing to do with autoimmunity is ignorance. It is horse blinder ignorance. When I've seen patient after patient after patient go into remission because they're willing to change what they're doing on a daily basis, which includes their diet, that is, again, unacceptable. Absolutely. And again, unfortunately, when you're in the medical model, when you're in the insurance model, it's their way or it's the highway. Again, the unfortunate thing, guys, is that functional medicine is not covered by insurance. You're going to have to be willing to invest into your health. And that's a bummer. But the thing is, if you find the right functional medicine provider, someone who is knowledge, they're educated, they actually have a degree in functional medicine, by the way. You can get degrees in functional medicine. Everyone kind of just says they do functional medicine. But when you actually have someone who's passionate and can show you how your lifestyle is leading to the disease process, that is that sweet spot. When you can look at your systems and your timeline and understand that that led you down a road towards autoimmunity, and when you can get real labs to show you where those root causes are coming from, right? So for example, does anyone dealing with elevated C-reactive protein? I see high C-reactive protein in my practice every single day, right? So I run a telemedicine practice. I've been doing that for 1.5 years, guys. We'll talk about at the end, essentially kind of what I do in my practice, how we get about an 85% success rate with our clients for remission with autoimmunity. I'm not keeping this a secret. The problem is you have to have willing clients to do that, right? You have to have people willing to change. If all you want to do is take that pill, this is not your lecture. If you want to start doing things differently, this is your lecture, because this is what I'm going to lay down all these recommendations. And then as you start to put this together unique to what your situation is, you can start to make those changes. So again, if we have an elevated in C-reactive protein, the reality is of course that's an inflammation marker. We all know that inflammation is a problem. The reality is inflammation is actually a good thing. Inflammation out of control is a terrible thing because it literally dysregulates your immune system. It pushes the accelerator on autoimmunity. But the question is, well, why are doctors not asking, where does C-reactive protein come from? Why is your C-reactive protein elevated? Right? Isn't that like a reasonable question? Why don't we ask that question? Where is C-reactive protein coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. C-reactive protein comes from interleukin 1, 6, and then TNF alpha. You guys may be familiar with that because that's what Humira targets. That's what Enbrel targets. That's what CellCept targets. Interocept, right? So we know that inflammation actually stems from these messengers, right? They're actually called cytokines, right? And those, right, are actually being triggered as a result of toll-like receptors, mainly 2 and 4. So what stimulates toll-like receptors? If we know every autoimmune condition is involving inflammatory chemicals, right? Things like NF, kappa, beta, right? That's a huge target for drugs. So if you can understand what's going on with drug physiology, but if you can understand why your body is producing inflammation, now you can start to understand, oh wait, now we can actually use this as a surrogate that your immune system is improving. Because if you can actually get your C-reactive protein in control naturally, guess what? You just made a huge leap forward, because now you're actually controlling C-reactive protein naturally, and you're not having to resort to suppressing medication, which has side effects. And one of those side effects is, guess what? It makes you more susceptible to infections. So right here, toll-like receptors are stimulated typically because of mucosal surface antigens. So what I mean by that is that there's an antibody and there's an antigen, right? Antigens, okay? If this is an antibody, an antigen fits into the antibody. Interestingly, guys, the autoantibodies that you're measuring in your blood work, they're not damaging your tissues. The immune response is what damages the tissue in autoimmunity. So you actually attract white blood cells through tissue being tagged by antibodies. It's not the antibody count that's causing damage. So understand that. I don't care if you have a thyroperoxidase of 50 or 5,000. That's not what's telling me the severity of damage. So what's going to happen here is, where do antigens come from? Right? Come on, guys, give me an answer. Someone on the Zoom. Throw it into the chat, guys. I want to see what do you think? What causes the stimulation of antigens? Ooh, $3,000 for one injection of Cosentyx. And this is the crazy thing, is that people think functional medicine is expensive, right? I'm not going to lie, it's an investment, but it's a one-time investment. It's understanding what actually is causing that inflammation is actually what's going to set you guys free, because that's going to tell you, hey, look, if we can fix where those antigens are coming from, guess what? You can control the C-reactive protein. Okay? No, antigens stimulate antibodies, not the other way around. Okay? Bacteria and viruses. That's, from a comment here. Epstein-Barr virus. Yes, those are all examples of antigens, right? Another example of an antigen is called LPS, lipopolysaccharides. LPS comes from gram-negative bacteria. Again, we're talking about people that have inflammation, have elevated C-reactive protein. They're brain fogged. You guys have joint pain. You guys have stiffness. You're fatigued. Let's make this real, right? Walking into a room and forgetting why, that is not normal. It's not a symptom of you getting old. Okay? Being stiff when you're feeling beat to hell when you get out of bed, that is not a normal symptom. Getting debilitating back pain because you have ankylosing spondylitis, that is not normal. So again, one of the antigens that toll-like receptors respond to is called lipopolysaccharides. Toll-like receptors activate interleukin-1, 6, TNF-alpha, and then that produces C-reactive protein. So lipopolysaccharides come from gram-negative bacteria. Why would we have an overgrowth of gram-negative bacteria? What are the conditions that allow overgrowth of gram-negative bacteria in your immune system? Come on. Come on, people, participants. Let's see some answers in that chat. Yes, Bree, poor gut health. If what we're talking about is a mucosal surface, it's not genes, right? We're going to talk about genes tonight. Yes, it's something in our food. Yes, pesticides. Guess what? Pesticides kill bad bacteria. Pesticides lead to overgrowth because pesticides kill beneficial bacteria. So by default, when you kill beneficial bacteria, guys, when you've had antibiotics, steroids, proton pump inhibitors, right? Purple Poison Incorporated, omeprazole, Nexium, right? Little purple pill. When you eradicate the beneficial bacteria in your gut, guess what happens? You created an unfair advantage for the negative bacteria in your gut. So what's going to happen? Naturally, the strongest survive. If you don't have enough of that bulwark, right? If you don't have enough of that dam against the bacteria which may be over-colonizing, especially if we're eating refined and complex carbohydrates. Your diet has everything to do with your inflammation, and inflammation has everything to do with autoimmunity. Don't tell me that it doesn't, because you're reading different research. You're reading pharmaceutical research. You've already swallowed the Kool-Aid, man. If you think autoimmunity is just going to be about a drug fix, you're way behind in the research. So what's going to happen here? What else drives a gram-negative bacteria? This is just an example, guys. This could be protozoan. This could be parasitic. This can be fungal, candida, fungus amongst us. Guys, this is how my celiac disease started. My celiac disease started because I had inappropriate levels of stress. I was not responding to stress in my life well. I was in my grad program. I was in my doctorate program, right? I didn't exercise enough. I didn't take care of my sleep hygiene. My diet was not good. I was inside a dark classroom for minimum 8 hours a day, sometimes up to 12. So I had low levels of vitamin D. I had high levels of cortisol. I had a poor diet which encouraged bacterial overgrowth. I lacked nutrients in my diet. And guess what? I started to raise my C-reactive protein. Not only that, but I actually developed a fungal infection, something called FIBO, fungal intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And it just so happens that when that fungus, right, produced something called gliotoxin, all you guys got to do is type in gliotoxin and celiac disease, and you will see the peer-reviewed research that comes up. Gliotoxin looks similar to tissue transglutaminase, IgA. So what happened? The fungal overgrowth and the fact that I was consuming gluten and I opened the barriers of my gut, at that point, I opened the floodgates of inflammation. Because I was inflamed, as inflammation goes up, I suppressed my immune system and it became dysregulated. So what happened then? My immune system got gliotoxin confused with an enzyme in my brush border, in my so they're called the the microvilli, right? The microvilli is that shag carpet you find in your gut. So I literally stopped absorbing because my own immune system was attacking the absorption enzymes, right? So again, but what did I do? Well, I changed my diet. I did lab testing to understand where was that coming from in the first place. I didn't know that there was a fungal issue. We tested and we found it. We test, we don't guess. And so, yes, Lola is asking, hey, can you reverse the damage? The answer is it depends. You're not going to reverse the damage if you're talking about the pigment in your skin, right? Vitiligo. That's gone. If you lose your nervous system tissue, theoretically, that's gone. Now, the crazy thing is there's been published research showing people with MS lesions have actually healed that tissue. Your body does heal itself, but if you're talking about things like nervous system tissue, optic nerve tissue, that heals on a very, very, very slow rate. So again, stem cells are exciting because we can kind of get into that topic of how about type 1 diabetics and using stem cell therapy. We actually know at this point that most type 1 diabetics still has a reserve pool of beta cells. So there's actually a reserve pool of beta cells that never die. It's just not enough to physically produce enough insulin to give you the function that you need with insulin. And so again, now we're starting to get into hopefully this new era where maybe we're going to find therapies that we can actually apply to each specific condition. Okay? So what I'm saying, right, is changing your food choices for some people, yes, may be more beneficial than biologics. What? But wait, my doctor said that I don't have to be gluten-free. Diet has nothing to do with my autoimmune disease. Okay? Again, if you've lost the function of your gland, such as in the case of Hashimoto's, right? First of all, you would have to know that because you'd have not just a high TSH, but you'd have low T4 levels. But just because, again, you've lost the gland doesn't mean that you have to lose the quality of life. Because those people that have lost the gland in Hashimoto's, they can still have highly functioning lives. I've seen over 2,500 cases of hypothyroidism. It is the #1 autoimmune condition in the world. It's the #1 autoimmune condition in the United States. Those people do most likely need a thyroid hormone replacement. The problem is your thyroid hormone is not treating your autoimmune issue. If your autoimmune issue is coming from a mucosal surface as a result of chronic exposure of antigens, again, foods, environmental chemicals, bacterial or fungal or protozoan, right? If you're throwing fuel onto the fire, good luck trying to get biologics or a thyroid hormone or insulin to fix all of your symptoms. Because you're just talking about one system that was damaged, but systemically, the entire system is involved in autoimmunity. And you'll never get away from that. Tissues are connected to tissues. Your brain is connected to your gut. Your hormones are connected to your gut. Your gut is connected to your skin. All systems are interconnected. This is why it's insane when it's just like, oh, I have a neurologist and I have a cardiologist and I have an endocrinologist. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, just fix the root cause, fix the reason why. And you will see function will change. You will see fatigue start to go away. You will see brain fog start to clear. Because not only are you addressing the inflammation, but you're addressing the reason why you have inflammation. And then again, that is what functional medicine does. If you know what you're doing. Easier said than done sometimes. You know, again, you got to crack a lot of eggs to make a really good omelet. And unfortunately, again, practice is practice. When you're working with people one-on-one, which is what I've done for the past 15 years, you make mistakes. And you're going to go to practitioners and you're going to find you don't like their personality. You will go to doctors and you will find they don't believe in functional medicine. You will go to doctors and they'll say, well, I'm only going to do what insurance covers. So again, what I want you guys to do tonight is make the box bigger. Not just stepping outside the box, make the box bigger and look at the things that you haven't done so far in your health. Are you taking the right supplementation? Are you on the right diet? Are you on the right exercise program? Are you taking care of your sleep? Do you have the right relationships in place for optimal health? So wait a second. You're telling me that relationships can lead to autoimmunity? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that the stress that you have in your life is going to cause immune suppression and dysregulation. And if that stress is coming from your relationships, guys, it's another form of toxicity. So the best way to reduce toxicity is to get rid of the toxin. And unfortunately, I know that those are hard words to hear. But the reality is, if those people in your life do not support you on another level, they are against you. Heck yeah, Tammy, I know that hits home. Because those are hard conversations that you have to have. So when I sit down, right, with a client and we do one-on-one care with them, I'm going to require the spouse. I need the spouse to be there. I need that, and this is usually the guy. 80% of my clients are women. God bless you guys, right? And because I need the husband to understand that him bringing in KFC into the house, it's no longer okay. If you do have gluten sensitivity, you cannot have that in the house anymore. I know that's going to cause friction, but when I explain it to your spouse versus you trying to have to explain it to your spouse, you guys have baggage. And what I have is conviction, and I have purpose, and I have a plan for every person that I see one-on-one. And my job is to convince your spouse that, hey, get on the wagon, man, because we're heading towards remission. But where you're headed, right, is disease, inflammation, and an early grave, if not dementia. Because look, the number one cause of dementia in this country is type 3 diabetes. That's insulin resistance. Your neurons are not immune to insulin resistance. Twinkle toes, yes, gluten sensitivity is related to psoriatic arthritis. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the 4 mechanisms, right? Let's talk about, by the way, again, if you guys have an elevated C-reactive protein, then the number one thing I want to do is I want to run a stool test, okay? So I'm not going to talk a ton about stool testing, but this test right here, this is called the GI map, okay? I call this the hot dog box test, believe it or not. It's a little hot dog box. It's so adorable, right? So yes, you get to fill that up, and you put that in a tube. This tube, look, they include gloves. Isn't that lovely, right? So you put your stool set test into the liquid, right? And you send it out the labs. In 2 weeks, it comes back. It tells me what the beneficial bacteria in the gut are, what the non-beneficial bacteria in your gut are, protozoans, parasites, if there's fungus, right? What are the good bacteria in your gut? You have to have. So look, one of the things, right, that dampens and controls toll-like receptors, okay? Guess what? Butyrate, okay? That comes from prebiotics, fiber, and also, guess what? Species of bacteria. So bacterial species, the beneficial commensal normal healthy flora dampens toll-like receptor activity. If you don't have beneficial flora, you're not going to be able to dampen your toll-like receptors. That means you make those inflammatory chemicals. That means you make C-reactive protein and NF-kappa B, right? And again, this is so common, especially these lipopolysaccharides. And again, in particular, gram-negative bacteria, they literally punch holes through the wall in the intestine. They will raise your zonulin levels. They will cause a systemic issue, which eventually leads into you losing control of your immune system. And because of genetic predisposition, right? Because of your genetic predisposition, not because you only have these genes and you're just destined to get autoimmunity, but because of a genetic predisposition with environment and triggers and leaky gut all combined together, that's what turns on the process of autoimmunity. But you can put it into remission. But if you don't find those individual features of your case, you will never put it into remission. And you are unfortunately fitting now into the model of drug therapy, of monotherapy, of immune suppression. Because again, that's what insurance covers, and that's what my doctor wants to do, instead of, again, making that box a little bit bigger and starting to think about, well, what else could be causing these issues in the first place? Okay? So let's talk about those 4 factors so you guys have a better idea of what's really driving this and what's causing this. By the way, if you guys want this lecture, all you got to do is email info@drautoimmune.com. So again, info@drautoimmune.com. So for full lecture, okay, info@drautoimmune.com. Okay, and you guys will get the replay and you guys can watch the whole thing. Okay, so if you guys got a jam early, no big deal. You guys can come back and watch that full lecture and you're not missing a thing. Okay, so that'll be up hopefully by tomorrow, just so you know. Again, there are always, like I said, 4 factors. Okay, 1 is going to be what we call single nucleotide polymorphisms, and that's the genetic example. So the number 1 most common genetic issue that predisposes towards autoimmunity, okay, is going to be MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolic acid reductase. So what is that doing? It's allowing you to methylate, okay, folate. So you're basically creating the active version of B9. Why? Why do we want to do that? Because that is what's used in your mitochondria. Every single autoimmune condition that we're aware of has a connection to your mitochondria. Your mitochondria is what produces energy. If you cannot produce enough energy, you cannot regulate your immune system. So by default, right, a mitochondropathy or a mitochondrial dysfunction is a hallmark finding in autoimmunity. Yes, Jasmine, everyone needs B9, but basically we know that 43% has at least one of the SNPs, okay, in this MTHFR. Now again, that's 2 genes. That's A1298, C6-7T. So there's 2 main genes out of that MTHFR gene. We also call that gene the mother effer gene, by the way. Ha ha ha, right? So this is why you're going to see in supplementation, the supplementation that we carry is methylated. And the reason is because a lot of people can't activate their B vitamins. If you can't activate your B vitamins, you're not able to put that into your mitochondrial complexes. And this is part of the way that you generate energy. If you don't have enough energy, you can't detoxify, you can't clear infections, right? You cannot generate ATP. Tico Mom, very good question, right? So what do you need? 2 copies of that, right? So we'd call one abnormal copy a heterozygous, and if you have 2 abnormal copies, you'd be a homozygous mutant, right? Meaning you have 2 null copies, 2 copies that don't work. The enzymatic activity changes based on the copies that you have. So yes, you're going to have worse activity if you're a homozygous and you have 2 abnormal copies versus if you have 1. Okay? Heterozygote here. That's funny, right? So I love that, right? But the problem is, again, is that doctors are literally giving people folic acid, and folic acid, your body has no idea what to do with it. It is not a normal nutrient. And in fact, it could be seen as a toxin in your body. Yet guess what? We spray everything with folic acid. Women are told to take folic acid. And I'm like, no, it's L5-MTHF. That is the methylated version of folate. The same thing goes, right? For B12, methylcobalamin. Okay? It's a mineral attached to a methyl group, methylcobalamin. But again, if you go to your doctor or if you take most multivitamins out there, they're going to give you cyanocobalamin. That is derived from cyanide. Who the hell wants to take cyanide? I'm like, this is why I don't trust the industry at all. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. For people that get B12 injections, you guys, the majority of what you're taking is cyanocobalamin. It is derived from cyanide. And it's FDA approved. I love that, Scott. That's right. Stamp FDA approved. That's ridiculous. You don't, and here's the thing, people that have been smoking, people that smoke, they build up cyanide in their tissue. It's actually another byproduct of the smoking that you guys are doing, is you actually physically build up cyanide in your tissue. So we especially don't want people taking cyanocobalamin if they were a smoker in their past. No, Jasmine, the methyl B12 shots, those are not fake. Not everybody really needs the B12 shots. Again, if you guys are dealing with chronic low levels of iron, chronic low levels of B12, if you've been told that your vitamin D level's low, right? So again, all those levels are being shown as low. The more important factor in this issue is absorption. Absorption is the problem. It's not necessarily, oh, well, again, look, I love supplements and I use supplements all the time, and I'm not going to tell you that they're not beneficial, right? But if you are not absorbing your supplements, you are throwing money away, right? You're literally throwing money out the window, okay? Brianna, I recommend my products. So I formulated my own supplement line because I'm tired of crap. Thorne, you mentioned the company Thorne, they've gone to crap, man. They got bought out by a mega corporation. So there's actually a handful. We're talking about like 5 or 6 companies who've not been bought out and then made cheap. Okay? Sam Ariel, absolutely. Supplements for pregnancy are super important. Always recommend, again, that L5-MTHF form of folate, not folic acid, but folate. Folinic acid is okay. That's a great form as well. But again, you want the methylated versions. So again, just coming back, right? Let's just talk about this. Methylation factors are important for various reasons. One of the reasons why is because, again, for estrogen, you need to methylate estrogen to clear estrogen. So for those people that genetically do not methylate well, one of the problems they're going to have is with estrogen clearance. So let me give you a scenario. You guys may be familiar with this. And if this is helpful, I want you guys to tap on that screen. You got into your menstrual cycle. and all of a sudden you started getting debilitating symptoms. Cramping, bloating, mood changes, clotting, breast tenderness, right? Or irregular menstrual cycles. You went to your doctor and they said, oh, I know what you need. You need birth control. That's it. Absolutely. And you're like, I guess that's what the doctor says. You took the birth control and you may have been okay, but a lot of people, a lot of women experience significant symptoms on birth control. That is a red flag for methylation defects right there. If you guys are struggling with your menstrual cycle, if you guys did terribly with Depo shots or IUDs or birth control pills, there's a very significant chance that you're not clearing estrogen and they're trying to give you more estrogen to trick your pituitary so you don't ovulate. Right? So women they go crazy. And it's not that they're crazy, it's screwing up their neurotransmitters. So they get anxiety, they get depression, right? You guys will get bloating, you guys get headaches, migraines. You guys gain weight. And you're like, what the hell? Like, this was supposed to help me. Theoretically, but if you had this issue, your body is not handling estrogen well. Check this out, okay? Lupus. 11 out of every 12 people that develop lupus are female. Hashimoto's. 7 of every 8 people who develop Hashimoto's are female. This is not an anomaly, guys. This is a reality. Women are dealing with autoimmunity at an astronomical level, and a predominance, right, is dealt with by women, because if you start to mess with the ratios of estrogen to progesterone and testosterone, you are in a world of hurt because your immune system is being dysregulated, because guess what? You're triggering inflammation again. So instead of, again, naming it, blaming it, and taming it with a pill, how about we start to think and link and say, hey, maybe there's a clearance issue going on with your estrogen metabolism. Maybe you have too much estrogen because something's making you produce estrogen. So again, when we come to 2, right? Environment. Okay? Guess what? Plastics. Okay? Phthalates, parabens, okay? BPA. Plastics, guess what they do? Boop. They upregulate estrogen. Persistent organic pollutants upregulate the production of estrogen. You know what they also do? Guess what they also do? They increase insulin resistance, mainly through something called PPARs, okay? These are related to the receptors in the production of insulin and the usage of insulin on the cell. So literally we have environmental factors, cosmetics, perfumes, deodorants, plastic bottles. Plastic is everywhere. And yet we're told, hey, just take some birth control, forget about it. No, the first thing you got to do is you got to get that crap out of your environment. You got to stop exposing yourself to plastics, especially soft plastics. Soft plastics are the worst. The flimsy water bottles, you guys, when you throw them in the back of your car in the summer and you just blast those plastics with heat, guess what's happening? The plastic is coming out. But it was already out probably because it went through a shipping truck that wasn't cooled. It was probably got heated, and so again, you're drinking plastic every time you put that plastic water bottle to your mouth. Hey guys, you guys like Starbucks? Anybody here like Starbucks? Laundry Wars, again, yes. Yes. Sorry, NS Wars. Laundry detergents. Yes, again, anything with perfume, those are plasticizers. If you guys go to look like, hey, You go to a local coffee shop and you got your cups. The lining in the inside of that cup, that's a phthalate. The lid, the plastic lid on your coffee cups, that's a phthalate. We are inundated by this stuff. Jasmine, get rid of the organic tofu. Throw it away. Carlos, I disagree. We work with POTS all the time. Posture orthostatic tachycardia syndrome is autoimmune until proven otherwise. Okay? So because, look guys, I just mentioned something, but someone had put up there about tofu. It's not about eating tofu once. That's not going to cause a problem. But if you're eating tofu on a regular basis, then what's going to happen is, again, you can upregulate phytoestrogens. So we want to be careful about that. And again, really, raw soy is the bigger issue. So like tamari, gluten-free soy sauce, I'm not as concerned about it because it's fermented. And when you ferment foods, you actually remove a lot of anti-nutrients from them. But especially people with thyroid disease, okay, be very, very careful of soy products. All right, some people can tolerate them, some people cannot. Okay, harmony, yes, absolutely. So again, like I said, we can have genetic issues that lead to these estrogen-related problems. We can have environmental issues that lead to estrogen problems. But again, the reality is that we also have 3 triggers, okay? And again, probably the second most common trigger that drives autoimmunity is going to be insulin and cortisol. Okay, fatiguing after meals is not normal. Craving sugar all the time is not normal. Shakiness, irritability, lightheadedness in between meals is not normal. You may feel like when you eat, oh, I can function again. That is not normal. Dang, I gotta take my nap in the afternoon. That is not normal. That might be average, right? But it's not normal. And those are strong symptoms of insulin resistance. So insulin, if it's not tightly regulated, is an inflammatory hormone. But again, insulin, right? Insulin will create fat cells. Okay, fat cells, guess what? Increase the production of estrogen. And just because you take Mounjaro or Ozempic or Wegovy does not mean you're fixing the root cause. Just because you suppress your appetite with stimulants does not mean your root cause is taken care of. Just because you cut your calories does not mean you're fixing the estrogen dominance issue going on. Right? So again, for me and my clients, we use the Libre 3. This is a continuous glucose monitor. You can buy these in my link tree. You guys can literally actually, again, purchase these on your own now. You don't have to go through insurance. In fact, insurance doesn't cover most of the reasons why. If you were a type 2 diabetic, they may cover this. If you're a type 1 diabetic, you may be covered by this. But if you have an autoimmune condition and you're severely insulin resistant, they're not going to cover it. But that may be a significant root cause of why you're developing autoimmunity. Right? And so again, this is probably about 8 out of 10 of my clients, I start them on continuous glucose monitors because insulin resistance is rampant. Geek Mac, I'm not sure if you can purchase those in London. I would email info@drautoimmune.com and we can get back to you about that. Okay? So again, we need to make sure that we're detoxifying estrogen, we're removing environmental chemicals. We know things like mold, mycotoxins, other chemical exposures such as pesticides, all those are pushing our immune system in the wrong direction. The number one thing we can do, guys, is honestly be careful about, again, where you live. You guys can run mold plates and figure out if you have mold in your environment. And you can eat organic, which will eliminate pesticides. You don't always really get a better nutrient-dense product with organic produce. If we're talking about like sustainable regenerative agriculture with topsoil rotation, that's a different matter. But the reason why you want to eat organic is you're eliminating toxins from your immune system because they are antigens. They are irritating your immune system. Okay? Jess, reach out. This is exactly what we work with. We work with MTHFR, with Epstein-Barr virus, with Hashimoto's, lupus, Sjogren's, eosinophilic esophagitis. You don't have to be miserable anymore. I'm serious. We're going to talk about, again, guys, we have a consult going on right now. We have a consult special. It's $350. Okay? It includes a very extensive marker panel. We send you to LabCorp for that. It's a 90-minute sit down with me, right? We only have so many of those. I can only do so many of those a week, guys. Social media has been a little bit crazy, so a lot of people are interested in those consultations. But again, I don't accept every client because you have to be motivated. You have to be willing to change your diet. You have to be willing to take supplements. I'm not asking a ton, but what I am saying is unless you're really serious about getting into these root causes that I'm talking about tonight, please don't sign up. I don't want to have that conversation, which is really uncomfortable, when I tell you face-to-face that you're not a good fit because you're not ready to give up alcohol. You're not ready to give up caffeine. You're not ready to change your vegetarian diet, right? Yes, vegetarian, vegan diets. Those people struggle when it comes to reversing and putting autoimmunity in remission. Again, all I can tell you guys is really just I am my authentic self. I am 100% transparent, and I will always give you what I think is the best recommendation as far as what you need, okay? Cheyenne, that's right, caffeine, it's got to go. Look, if you have a cortisol issue, look, if you're waking up in the morning and you're feeling beat up, guys, if you're craving caffeine or sugar in the morning, right, or you need caffeine or stimulants to get you going in the morning, if you're getting, right, that afternoon fatigue, if you're getting a second wind at nighttime, those are all cortisol issues. You have to give up caffeine. I'm not saying that's the rest of your life, right? But you're going to need to give it up. At least for probably 2 to 3 months. So your adrenal glands can actually heal, your body can actually chill, and then you can come back and bring it back in. Look, coffee has bioflavonoids, right? There's health benefits of coffee. But some people are abusing caffeine because it is a drug. That's right. No caffeine, no sugar, no gluten. Be ready, Deco Pony. I love it. Okay? Nicole, no, I'm not a fan of wild yam cream. Okay? Look, guys, supplements are sexy. I get it, right? I sell supplements. I love supplements if you're using them for the right reasons. But wild yam cream is progesteronic, right? So yes, you can increase your progesterone through wild yam, but your delivery system is not regular. If you use your cream on your skin, you get irregular delivery from your skin. So I would never recommend wild yam because you can just take oral progesterone and you will actually get a consistent delivery of progesterone. Okay? So again, right? No, alcohol is absolutely 100% out. Okay? Someone right there just said alcohol. Okay? Jasmine, I love black seed oil. Amazing, phenomenal, anti-inflammatory, omega-3s, omega-6s, omega-9s. Such a great, great, great essential fatty acid product. Jasmine, absolutely. Yay! So, you guys, I said the second most common trigger is insulin resistance. Who wants to know what the most common trigger is for autoimmunity? Reeves, you can go ahead and email info@drautoimmune.com, okay? And we'll get you the whole lecture. That's it. Infections, remember, infections are antigens. Infections cross-react with your own tissue. Infections are the #1 cause and leading trigger behind the creation of autoimmunity and the perpetuation of autoimmunity. Right? If your doctor is telling you that your symptoms are anxiety, find a new doctor. Look, we can be hypochondriacs for sure, right? And we can fret and we can worry about a diagnosis. That's natural. And honestly, guys, I had to grieve when I was diagnosed celiac. It was terrible. It was like worse than a breakup. I mean, like, think of all the foods that you eat that have gluten in it. And that was comfort food. But I realized that my life was such absolute terrible. I mean, it was my quality of life was terrible. And I was like, I can give that up. Like, I like steak. I like vegetables. I like fruit. It's not that big of a deal. And so, again, you do have to unfortunately make sacrifices when it comes to your best health, right? The best version of your health. But it doesn't mean you have to give up everything. Initially, we're fairly restrictive with what we do with people as far as on the dietary side, right? Protein, vegetables, and fruit. That's it. And if you don't like that, right, we've got the vegetable, fruit, and protein version. Or the fruit, protein, and vegetable version. Okay? But the thing is if you guys are not looking on mucosal surfaces for infectious issues, that is by far the number one reason, that's what's driving autoimmunity. Right? The fact is that your tissue will cross-react to infectious diseases, such as gram-negative bacteria, gram-positive bacteria, fungal overgrowths, protozoan and parasitic infections, viral infections. Again, the number one mechanism for type 1 diabetes is a virus. But guess what? What would you think? What's the thing that seems to be correlated that we naturally make to viral infections? What is the hormone that we take orally and supplementally that helps us with prevention of viral infections? User 1020, bang, you got it. So check this out. Absolutely fantastic, guys, wonderful. Guess what keeps the cells in your gut nice and tight? It's vitamin D. So now, look, you don't need a 200 count vitamin D, guys. You guys don't need to be taking mega doses of vitamin D. Remember, vitamin D is a hormone. But there was a research study that was done, okay? I don't remember what country it was, but it was a Scandinavian country. They have a national registry, right, of patient data. So they looked at close to 30,000 people, and they tracked them over time. And they basically told these people, they had a group of those people that gave their children 2,000 IUs, 2,000 international units of vitamin D for the first 11 months of their life. Those people that utilized that vitamin D with their kids had a 78% reduction in type 1 diabetes. Why? Well, imagine if, again, one of the most common root cause mechanisms for type 1 diabetes is a viral infection. Do you guys see how this is connected? But again, we're told to take 400 international units of vitamin D a day. That is ridiculously low. You're going to need to times that by 10 to make a clinical dosage in an adult. If you're inflamed, if you're overweight, more than likely you're going to have to take a higher dose. Now, look, here's the deal. Do you have to supplement? No, you can go out in the sun. But I'm not going to get exposure. I am inside seeing clients, right? I wear a fur coat, for God's sakes. I live in the mountains of Colorado. So I'm not going out and getting sun exposure. Plus, the angle of the sun right now is not intense enough to give me vitamin D. So again, go back to the basics of what actually creates an optimal human being, and that's going to be where, again, you need to be to put your autoimmune disease in remission. Now, there are 4 things, right? There are 4 things that I always want to start with when it comes to autoimmunity. there are 4 basics. Now again, we talked about genetic alteration, right? Environment, triggers. The 4th thing is leaky gut, okay? But I want to talk about the 4 things that I start with from a lifestyle perspective as far as what you guys have to consider. What am I not doing right now? What can I start to increase? All these things are going to have to be in place if you want to address your autoimmune condition, okay? So let's go to those. Again, like I said, if you guys want a copy of this lecture, you need to email info@drautoimmune.com. If you guys want a handout on leaky gut, right? Leaky gut is the mechanism that actually, again, allows autoimmunity to start. But if you guys want a handout on leaky gut, you need to go to my link. If you're in TikTok, go to my link tree, go to my bio, right? You guys there in the webinar, you guys, again, can email info@drautoimmune.com. But that link in my bio, when you punch in your email, will automatically send you it's like a 3-page, 4-page guide on how to heal leaky gut. Again, there are 7 major mechanisms behind leaky gut, right? Diet, medications, infections, stress, hormonal, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, etc., right? Thyroid, neurologic, i.e. your vagus nerve, and metabolic. That's, again, blood sugar. But let's go back again and talk about the 4 things, right? So there are the four what we call the basics. If you actually want to give your immune system a fighting chance and using the tools that we have at our disposal to actually start to really push our immune system in a different direction, right? 1 is going to be diet or nutrition. Again, if you're not absorbing, this is hard. So this is why sometimes you need to hire someone that is going to actually give you the individualized approach of what you need to do with your diet and nutrition. But again, in general, nutrient dense, get away from refined carbohydrates, right? Chew your food. Actually give thanks for your food before you eat your food. Prayer is a beautiful thing, guys. Meditation is a beautiful thing. But focus on consistency. That's what's most important to your immune system. Consistency. Right? At the very least, it's going to have to be gluten-free and dairy-free to start. We will take it up a notch from there if you're working one-on-one. Right? That's right, John. Love it, man. So glad that you're here, John. Right? 2, okay, is going to be exercise. Again, not everybody needs to go to P90X. Not everyone needs to go to Orange Theory. Not everyone needs to do CrossFit. Because exercise it can help your adrenal glands. It can actually hurt your adrenal glands. Exercise is one of the most phenomenal ways to improve your sleep quality. Exercise will help you regulate your blood sugar. Exercise will help you blow off smoke, and the water will fall off the duck's back so much easier if you have the right exercise program. Right? If you're exercising and you're getting worse, that is another sign of autoimmunity. We call that chronic fatigue syndrome. Those are your M2 antibodies that are being targeted. As a result, you're not just lazy. If you're having to pay for it severely when you exercise, that is a symptom of chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay? However, again, most people with chronic fatigue syndrome have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. They have SIBO. Again, you have dysbiosis in your gut, inappropriate ratios of good to bad bacteria. And as a result, you cannot produce enough energy. When you exercise, as you're healing your tissue, you need to increase your energy to repair your tissue. When you don't have that energy there because your mitochondria is sucking wind, right? Because you're draining the bank, you're going to get more symptoms. So again, people who have long haul COVID and they're reacting to exercise, you cannot push beyond that. You have to do with what your body can handle, but you're going to have to, again, if you find those root causes, insulin resistance, low levels of vitamin D, Epstein-Barr virus, glutathione, etc., find those and fix those, you're going to find that you can push into exercise again. Again, I've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. guys, we have been inundated with long haul cases, right? People that have gotten the shot, they got the third vaccine they got, everything changed, right? The second time they got COVID, everything changed. Those people are not lazy. Those people are dealing with a metabolic issue that involves autoimmunity. Okay? So exercise is huge, right? 3 is your sleep. If you don't have sleep hygiene, you are pissing your immune system off. Now, the crazy thing is, if you're chronically inflamed, you also probably have pretty terrible sleep. The other interesting thing is that if your sleep is altered at the same time every night, there's a very good chance that's actually blood sugar. Because if you deplete your glycogen and then all of a sudden, boom, you wake up, guess what? You're going to have anxiety. You're going to have worry. You're not going to be able to get back to sleep. You're going to be like, your head's going to be spinning. But a very common pattern behind that is actually blood sugar. Again, fix your blood sugar, and there is so much downstream that will actually start to improve, right? So sleep is huge. 4, again, is going to be stress and by default, relationships. If you constantly feel like your life is in danger, if you constantly feel like you're being belittled, right? If you're constantly being put down, if you're constantly around negative people, your immune system is going to treat that as a threat. This is no joke. This is really serious. And again, one of the things that is top 5 for me that actually sets people up for autoimmune conditions are called adverse childhood experiences. It's trauma. People that undergo trauma become reactive. When you're reactive, your stress hormones go up. When your stress hormones go up, you suppress your immune system and you lose control of your immune system. So, guys, look, doctors are well-meaning people. They can be lovely people. Many times specialists can be not the nicest people. So the problem is that your doctors are not giving you the information that you guys need because they're stuck in a medical model that only appreciates surgery and medication as the only tool. So if you're a nail, right? If your doctor thinks that you're a nail and all he has is a hammer, believe me, he's going to hit that nail. But if you're a screw and you need a screwdriver to insert that screw, you're out of luck. And so the problem is, you guys are not the problem. The medical model system is the problem. The solution to that is functional medicine. If you guys just want quality of life improvements, if you guys have been so fatigued that you've had to go on to like disability. I mean, I've had a ton of those clients recently. I had a woman, she was a full-time nurse. Her C-reactive protein went up to crazy high levels. It was over a 70. And in 4 months, we got her back to where she's now applying for jobs again. What does that do to our economy? Like, that's a good thing. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of those success stories that we have on a regular basis because that woman's life was miserable. She was in pain all the time. She was fatigued all the time. She lived, in her words, I've been living in my lazy boy. And I'm like, damn. I mean, TikTok's cool, but not all day long. Like, there's a lot cooler stuff to do than just TikTok. No offense. Okay? So what we want to do, right, is start to understand through good labs and a good history what you haven't done. Do you need to go gluten-free? Do you need to radically change your diet? Do you need to look at trauma in the past? Do you need to look at your hormones? Do we need to understand if there, again, are infectious issues in your gut? As you start to make changes and as you start to improve the environment for your immune system is going to thank you because your symptoms will start to go away. You will start to regain control of your life. You start to show up as the best version of yourself. And that's what God wants. I mean, look, I don't know what God wants, guys, but I'm just telling you this. He doesn't want us stuck on medications day in, day out. Oh, I got to go to my rheumatologist on Friday. Oh, and then I got to go to my endocrinologist on Thursday. Oh, and yep, and my PCP appointment, that's on Wednesday. Oh man, my whole life is revolving around my doctor's visits. That's not quality of life. So if you want to retake and reclaim what your birthright is, right? Meaning living the life that you deserve, you got to start doing things differently. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. That is insanity. So start changing the inputs into your system and you will get a different output. Use the right. Yes, we do international consults. Sorry to break that up right there, right? But yes, we do work with international clients. That's info@drautoimmune.com, okay? So guys, again, everyone does it differently, but the way that we do it in my practice, right, is we will do a comprehensive blood panel. We send you to LabCorp for that. Then what's going to happen is we're going to get those results back. It actually takes us about 3 days, 4 days at the most to get those results back. You're going to look at insulin, not just A1C, but insulin, a ferritin, fibrinogen. We're going to look at your homocysteine. We're going to look at your testosterone, at your estrogen, at multiple thyroid markers, including screening you for Hashimoto's. We're going to do a complete blood count. We're going to do a COMP14. We're going to do everything that your doctor does, and we're going to probably do on average 20 to 40% more than what they do. And then you're going to sit down with me and I'm going to talk to you as a human being because we're having a human experience. And I'm going to start to ask questions. And I'm going to start talking about your timeline. And we're going to start saying, hey, have you done this? And what about this? And we're going to start talking about clusters of your symptoms because remember, the systems are causing the symptoms in the first place. If we can isolate what system is driving that and we treat that system, we don't treat the symptoms, guys. We treat you. We treat the system that's causing the symptoms. When you do that, you will watch your life change. You will watch your whole life turn around. You will watch inflammation levels drop. You will watch hormone levels come back up because your inflammation levels are dropping. These are the things that have to be done to each individual person. This is why Western medicine is failing. This is why chronic medicine management is failing. Because they want, again, to fit everyone into the same model. And meanwhile, everyone having these additional side effects are wondering, hey, is there anything else I can do? Is there a different way? I'm telling you, this is the different way. So again, as far as TikTok goes, you're going to see the consultation at the very top of my bio, and it's going to be $350, okay? So that's the cost. That's the special that we're running right now. Now, in March, there's a chance that we are probably going to up that price because of the interest and because it's just life. It costs, okay? So if you guys want to take advantage of that, I would grab that special now. You will have to book a discovery call. You'll talk to my staff. They're going to answer all your questions. They're going to prep you for the appointment. We're going to get you the links so you can fill out the paperwork. All that will be handled by my staff. Okay? Be nice to my staff. Okay? They will treat you well, but just be nice to them. Okay? They're humans too, but we're here to help you. Then when we get the blood work back, you're getting into my virtual practice. We're going to do a Zoom, and we're going to sit down. We're going to go through it. I'm going to give you my best recommendations. I'm going to let you know if I can help you. If you're a good fit, I will tell you the costs of what that's going to look like and how much time this is going to take. And if anything, guys, I'm going to be honest with you because there's no other way to do it. It's just say, hey, look, here's what's going on. Here's what we got to do about it. Here's what it costs. Is this what you want to do? Because you need to be committed to the finish line, right? You need to be committed to a different lifestyle than what you've been doing. So as far as the webinar, folks, there should be a link in there that we're going to post that will actually also have the link as far as for the sign up. So Jamie, if you could post that, I would love that on the Zoom as well. And I'm going to answer some questions for you guys. So we'll go from there. Okay. So you guys have any other further questions on the consultation, you guys can ask about that. But let's go ahead and just answer some questions. How about end-stage Hashimoto's patients with thyroid atrophy? And what should I do if I was taking cyanocobalamin shots in the past? So again, I don't think you have to worry so much about if you were taking cyanocobalamin. I just would say that you probably want to discontinue that, right? So don't get too hung up on that. I just think that it's a little bit silly that they're using an inferior version of that, which is derived from cyanide. As far as, again, if you've had physical thyroid atrophy, again, are you hypothyroid? Just because your thyroid is atrophy doesn't mean that it's lost all its function. So this is where, again, you're going to have to go to lab tests and see where you're at. Again, a lot of people, again, are taking thyroid medication, but they're still having symptoms. And those people are, again, classically autoimmune as well. Here. Okay. So let's do this. All right, hang on one second, guys. All right, so here we're going to put in the chat. I'm going to paste, and there it is. Okay, so guys, in that webinar chat right there, you're going to see a link as far as for the sign up. Okay. Judy, insurance doesn't cover functional medicine, so that's a great question. Unfortunately, they don't. And so again, if you guys have HSAs, FSAs, all that covers what we do. Okay, and it's not a big deal for us. We can generate an itemized receipt. Okay, but again, insurance is not going to cover functional medicine. There's no medications that we're giving, and there's no procedures that we're doing. So there's nothing to bill insurance. Jasmine, I'm not a big fan of Humira. Jasmine, I'm not a big fan of Humira. Yeah, no, insurance does not pick up functional medicine. What nutrients are we deficient with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism? Insurance does not pick up functional medicine. What nutrients are we deficient with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism? Well, quite frankly, probably a lot, because there's malabsorption that happens with Hashimoto's. So again, what would be the top issues that I typically see? I would see zinc, selenium, amino acids, essential fatty acids, iron. Those would probably be the top nutrients that I see are deficient in as far as with Hashimoto's and other autoimmune conditions. Yeah, right, Jen J, good to hear that. What are my thoughts on myo-inositol or berberine? Again, I do use a lot of inositol. I don't use a ton of berberine because, again, metformin is derived from berberine. After 12 months of using metformin, you're almost guaranteed to have a B12 deficiency. So I do use some berberine, but I tend to use berberine as an antimicrobial. I don't tend to use it for blood sugar purposes. Melanie, can leaky gut cause vomiting? The inflammation associated with leaky gut could cause vomiting, but gastroparesis and ulcers and other issues can certainly cause vomiting as well. So you want to make sure that you have a workup on that. Jasmine, how do I feel about HLA-B27? I mean, I don't really feel anything about HLA-B27. It's a gene that's associated with seronegative spondyloarthropathies. Writers, again, evaluated a woman today. Sure enough, her doctor told her that she has rheumatoid arthritis. More than likely, she has Writers, actually, as a matter of fact. So again, misdiagnosis happens all the time, unfortunately. But again, the point of HLA-B27 is just a diagnostic marker that says, yes, there's more likely that psoriatic arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, or Writers, etc. Okay? Yeah, Jasmine, AS, again, classically that issue is dysbiosis. Klebsiella pneumonia is typically overgrown in your gut, and that cross-reacts to your sacroiliac joint tissue. So again, Klebsiella pneumonia produces gram-negative bacteria, right? I'm sorry, let me say that differently. Klebsiella pneumonia is a gram-negative bacteria, and that gram-negative bacteria produces lipopolysaccharides. That cross-reacts against the sacroiliac tissue in ankylosing spondylitis. D, anything you can share about Behçet's? Everything that we just talked about, D. All the major mechanisms for autoimmunity, whether it be hormones, whether it be infectious, whether it be environmental, all those are very much relevant to that as well. Elizabeth, we work with, oh my gosh, our gastroparesis success rate is at least 85%. So we see a lot of clients with gastroparesis. Again, probably the first and top condition that usually drives gastroparesis would be insulin resistance. If you have any malabsorption issues, you guys gotta check your methylmalonic acid if you have gastroparesis, because again, a B12 deficiency will also facilitate gastroparesis. Can ice plunges be good or bad for people with RA? You know, I think it's more importantly as far as what you talk about with that when it comes to your heart health. So if your heart is strong enough to handle an ice plunge, then I think that'd be a great thing for people with rheumatoid arthritis. Absolutely. Endometriosis is autoimmune, estrogen dominance right there, typically also insulin resistance. Yes, 100%. I absolutely do work with kids. I've been working with ASD kids. I've been working with all sorts of conditions really since I've been in practice, and I've been doing this for 15 years. So yes, we do work with kids. Again, the same thing goes. Is the kid willing to change the diet? Do you have control to help that kid change his diet? Now, I understand that ASD kids don't want to change their diet and they want to eat macaroni and cheese. However, we have to start talking about substitutes. And again, this is why we have a clinical nutritionist on staff. Her name is Stevie. She's wonderful. And she's very, very good as far as with kids as well. Talisha, I just want to know how you hold this much information in your brain. Oh no, this is just the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So again, like I said, guys, so I've done my master's in human nutrition and functional medicine. I studied under a genius man named Alex Vasquez. He's a triple doctorate. I did the Institute for Functional. I did their program. All I wanted to do in school was learn about nutrition, about functional medicine, because of how dramatic my life was impacted from functional medicine. My life was changed from functional medicine. So I realized I want to be the best doctor that I can be. I want to be that wise doctor. I want to be that person that can really give people the information that they need. But that's not just by sitting down and just learning what I learned in school, showing up for my minimum amount of continuing education, and then trying to help people. No, like I am doing continuing education on a regular basis. I want to show up for people. I also try to take care of myself, because if your doctor is unhealthy, have you guys ever had, like, again, and this is, I'm not fat shaming here, but look, if you have a morbidly obese doctor roll into your office and he smells like cigarette smoke, are you going to take that person like serious? Like, heck no, I'm not going to take you serious. Like, that's ridiculous. And especially, again, those people that they can't even make eye contact with you as providers. I'm like, hey, no, up right here. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about the research. They don't like having those conversations because it challenges their paradigm. And that's a problem. Where is Kurt Cobain? Good question. Yes, we work with lichen sclerosis, absolutely. Is costochondritis an autoimmune disease? So, Sarah, not always, but costochondritis can be a manifestation of a connective tissue disease. So it could be manifesting here, right? And I've definitely seen quite a few costochondritis patients that, again, they do have systemic inflammatory issues, but not every in fact, sometimes costochondritis is actually musculoskeletal, and it's actually coming from your ribs on your backside, and you guys need a good chiropractor. So again, find someone in your area, go get adjusted, see if that makes a huge difference. If it doesn't, and that those symptoms are, again, they're ebbing and flowing, and it doesn't really make sense, that's more inflammatory in nature. Okay, that's more suspicious of autoimmunity. Yes, do we work with endometriosis? Absolutely. Yeah, we see lupus almost every week. Katie, functional medicine, again, is a process of understanding chronic illness through the lens of your systems, right? So we have your neurologic system, you have your gastrointestinal system, you have your hormonal system, right? You have your immune system, and there's various factors that influence those systems. Your environment, right? Your what your experiences you've had in your life, right? Your genetics, right? Your nutrient status, all these things influence our systems. So in functional medicine, what we're trying to do is use labs, use your history, understand what systems are driving your symptoms. So instead of, again, just landing at a diagnosis and then knee-jerk, we give you a medication, what I want to do is understand, why do you have that problem? Why do you have inflammation? Why do you have those symptoms? And then we're going to change things like your diet. We're going to change your exercise. We're going to change your sleep. We're going to use stress and relaxation, and we're going to actually talk to you about your relationships. We're going to use supplementation, right? I do some neurologic therapies. We do brain mapping. We actually recommend people get brain mapping done, and then we'll recommend neurologic devices for people to use. But everything is customized to the person. I don't use protocols with my clients, okay? China Marie, I don't know. You'd have to get a consult for us to talk about that. Okay, you guys, again, yes, we have, I don't have any New Zealand patients yet, but we have Australian clients, Sarah. So you would need to email info@drautoimmune.com, okay? And then Marilyn, yes, you can heal from Epstein-Barr, but it's going to go back into remission. You can't fully get rid of Epstein-Barr virus. Once it's there, it's always going to be there. But you can control the expression of Epstein-Barr based on the factors that are allowing your immune system to become suppressed and allowing that to come out. So that's the difference as far as how we look at that. Okay. Again, guys, like I said, that the 350 special, that is going away. I believe in March. We're almost there. So I would recommend you guys grab that if you want right now. Like I said, we will refund your money if you're not a good fit. So if when we ask you questions about, are you willing to change your diet? That's a yes or no answer. Are you willing to take supplements? It's a yes or no answer. Are you motivated, right? And we ask you, what is your motivation on a scale of 1 to 10? So if you're not really a good fit, we're just gonna politely refund your money because we'd rather you not go through this process and be upset and then blame us. What we wanna do is we wanna work with people who are excited, ready to change their life. They have purpose, right? And all they need is they need someone to take them by their hand and guide them through to what those specific things are. And that's what we're here to do. And that's what we will continue to do. And we'll continue to educate you guys. And we appreciate everybody that's been hanging out with us. Like I said, if you want a copy of this lecture, if you want to know more about autoimmunity, again, just email info@drautoimmune.com. We have a whole, I believe it's a 75-minute presentation on autoimmunity. You guys can get a link for that. And so you guys can watch this whole lecture. And if you need anything else, please reach out to us. You can DM me on TikTok. Again, folks over here, you guys can, again, send an email to info@drautoimmune.com. And until next time, my name is Dr. Ian. This has been another session with Dr. Autoimmune. You guys are amazing again. And until next time, let your health soar.